If you think back to your time in school, maybe you're with me in remembering that learning was hard. Or maybe learning was easy for you, but that wasn't the case for me. Like in 9th grade biology, when I had to memorize all the different parts of a paramecium. And then again in summer school, I'm not good at memorizing all those little parts. As a senior, I had to learn a dance routine to Pretty Woman, which also involved listening to Pretty Woman again and again. In college, there was public speaking. The list is really endless. But that's not the type of learning that I'm talking about today. The type of learning I'm talking about has to do with understanding power, privilege, distributions of justice, and systems of oppression. I'm talking about the learning that twists you inside out. The kind that says, if you want to stay in your integrity, you can't be the same person you were 1 second ago before you heard this or saw that. The kind of learning that humbles you, makes you uneasy in your skin. In 2014, my partner and I started a queer endeavor. We're an organization that supports educators to create schools that are safe and affirming of LGBTQ+ youth, families, faculty, and staff. So far, we've supported over 6,500 teachers, principals, counselors, and district staff, and the learning that we ask them to do is this type of learning. We understand this learning to be disruptive, discomforting, interference with what we know, and we honor that in many important and necessary ways, as poet Andrea Gibson says, it hurts to become. In sessions we facilitate, we ask educators to think about ways that their everyday practices might be negatively impacting students. In your classrooms, what might you allow from boys and expect from girls based on ideas of masculinity and femininity? How might those ideas be even further complicated by students' race, ethnicity, ability? What counts as normal in the curriculum that you teach? Whose voices are front and center? Whose are silenced? This type of learning is meant to transform our thinking. It asks us to be and act differently. So we've gotten really comfortable with making educators uncomfortable. What's often more challenging is craving those learning pains ourselves, tapping into the stories that we all have of times when learning has brought us to our knees. I want to share a couple of those with you all today. When I was 9, I wrote a love letter to my babysitter, Janice. At that point, I was pretty sure I was a boy. But soon after, in 3rd grade, when I announced that I thought Miss Finkel was fine, and saw the look on Todd Ryan's face, I realized I was not a boy, that I was a girl or something like that, and that I liked girls. I'm from the Catholic South. For 13 years, I wore plaid skirts, some version of a penny loafer, and blouses with Peter Pan collars. Things have changed a bit for me, praise Jesus. School was not a place where I learned myself. I knew the word gay, but didn't really know what it meant or if it defined me. My best friend Nikki thought lesbians were called Leslies. That's about where the start of our learning curve was. So learning was really a guessing game. Growing up, I played basketball. I'd shoot baskets on any hoop I could find. Each shot went up like a prayer, a question, fearful curiosity. Am I gay? If I miss this shot, I'm gay. Thousands of shots fired and years of balls bouncing everywhere, but no answer was true enough. No answer calmed me. But I was gay. I knew that then. You see, growing up, what I did learn about myself, about queer folks, came in the form of lessons in morality and salvation, in fear, in wondering if people I loved most would still love me. After many nights, over many years praying to be healed, I came to terms with the fact that I was going to hell. Along with Ellen DeGeneres, Kristen Apotelova, and that guy from Bewitched. I have since realized that the 4 of us will be in pretty great company. I joke about it now because funny is what sometimes happens when deep sadness and intense pride meet in the name of identity and group connection. But this process was heartbreaking. It was grief-filled. It was the type of transformative learning that landed on me. The growing pains of that process influence who I am as a person, but importantly, as an educator. The ways that I teach and the classrooms that I work imperfectly to humanize. This brings me to my second example. As a graduate student, I taught School and Society, a course that supports undergraduates to understand systems of oppression along lines of race, social class, gender, sexuality, language, and to examine the ways that those systems work to privilege some students and marginalize others. One semester, I was chosen to teach a special section of the course designed for students of color and first-generation college students. In an effort to talk across the boundaries, our class met every other week with another section of the course comprised of students more representative of the university's general student body, mostly white, mostly upper middle class. Halfway through the semester, my colleague and I decided it was a good idea to do the privilege walk as a whole group. If you're unfamiliar, in this activity, students line up at a starting line, finish line in sight, and they advance along that path, or not, by acknowledging the privileges that they have or that they don't. For example, step forward if your parents went to college, if you've never been bullied because of your race, sexuality, gender identity, if your first language is English. And step back if your family moved because they couldn't afford rent, if you've ever been stopped by the police because they thought you looked suspicious. As I watch my students standing near the back of the line take one step forward, only to be forced to take 2 or 3 steps back, my stomach sank. I knew the historical traumas inflicted onto communities of color, and especially onto students of color in school. And now I was subjecting them to this, to the pain of having to act out what they already knew. What was I thinking? Who was this learning for? We walked in silence back to our classroom, each feeling our own defeat. I said to them, "I'm sorry." And they sat in that moment with me, sharing more grace than students should ever have to share with someone who's been trusted to teach them. I can still feel the gut punch that this learning did to me. It sits between my throat and my stomach. And what was most distressing is that my learning landed on my students. It wasn't that I didn't know they would be in the back. That much was clear. Each statement spoke not to who my students were, but to those systems that I was so well versed in teaching about. I had that knowledge in my head, but that day, I was twisted around by it. That day, the knowledge was in my body. I was on fire for justice, but I had not allowed myself to sit in the discomfort of my own complicity as a queer educator who was also white and who mostly took steps forward. And so what would it mean for us as educators to crave this type of learning? The hard kind, the transformative kind. What might it take for us to have the courage to step into that discomfort, to honor the fact that conversations about power, privilege, justice land on different bodies in different ways? As a queer endeavor, when we lead sessions with educators, we ask them to lean into the discomfort that comes along with this type of learning. We say we'll do our best to create a soft space of accountability for us all to land in. Landing soft in the hurt it takes to become, that's a key piece of the puzzle of humanizing education. Thank you.